Hey everyone, welcome to part 2 of this Flutter to Do app series. As promised, today we are going to be going through and designing out a layout in a tool called Figma. So I've opened up Figma right here. This is the desktop application. You can also load it in your browser. If you just go to figma.com right here. And then I'm logged in right now, but it'll pop up with all your different projects. Now that we're in this application right here, let's get started making an actual layout, right? So we're going to start out by making a frame. And we're going to start with the iPhone 11. And this is just going to be your basic screen, right? So we're going to call this our login screen. So we know from the flowchart that we generated in the last video that our login screen, right, we're going to have a sign in with Google option. And that's where we're actually going to check if the user exists, and if so, get all their data. If not, start creating their data. So I'm going to start by, just writing the title of our application here. I'm going to use the font Berlin Rounded. Feel free to use any rounded font. I don't believe this one is free to use. And we're going to call this application something really cheesy, like To Do Master. I'll center that. So in terms of colors, right, so when you're starting and designing an application, you generally start kind of with a color spec, which would be your design documentation. Obviously, I'm not going to be designing out, a whole branding guide here, but I'll pick out a few of kind of our colors. We're going to go with a little matte red here, a little darker gray, and then this is going to be our light gray. Awesome. So we're going to pull from there. Oopsie daisies. Press K. K is your scaling tool. We're just going to scale it up, center it. Awesome. So I've pulled in this illustration right here from a website called Undraw, and you guys can go check out that website on your own. But essentially, they're little illustrations like this, and you can customize the color. They're all completely royalty free, open source. It's a pretty cool project. I recommend checking it out. Move that out of the frame. Take this frame. Take all this. We're gonna group it together. In general, I like to name things just because it makes it easier for other people who are working on these projects. There you go. There's your little illustration. And then finally, we're going to have a little sign in with Google button. So it's just a rounded box with a slight drop shadow that is red. And then I'm going to change this red color right here to be the same as our actual red. This is actually a little bit too matte for my liking. Increase this a little bit. There you go. And what we can do is actually, so there are styles, options for styles here. So if you go to assets, you can use this, for example, this button as an asset. But we're not going to do that in this tutorial. But it's definitely an option. There, create component. And if you see right here, I can drag this component out and reuse it. So, that's kind of our basic login screen, User just clicks the button, they log in with Google. Google provides the authentication protocol, and we don't have to do anything there. So next, we're going to go to the home screen. So if we look at our flowchart that we made right here, we can see that we have, your login screen, and then you have your actual home screen right here, right? So on this home screen, then we need to do a few different things. You have to show the current to-dos, provide an option for the user to edit to-dos, filter to-dos, input a new to-do, or mark to-do as done, right? So these are kind of the 5 different functions that we actually have to have in this to-do screen. And then for the editing, we said that we were going to be using a pop-up. So we'll also have to design out that pop-up and see how that looks. All right, so this is how the flowchart that you make right here can provide context requirements for your design in Figma. So now we got that figured out, let's get started, as I said before, with the actual home screen. So the home screen is going to be pretty simple. All right, let me delete all this. I'm going to keep this actually. Let's set this to about 32 pixels. And this is going to be kind of that title, right? So we're going to be hello and then username. So we're just going to start with this simple hello username right here. So size it up. And that's going to be kind of our introductory title, right? Just going to add a little spacing right there. And then underneath this, I want a little kind of like welcome message, right? It's going to be like, hey, you have this many to-dos on your list, right? So we're going to drop this down to 18 pixels, left align it, sign this. Same amount of padding. I'm pressing shift and then the right and the left key to add padding. And let me make this color. I'm going to add one more shade of gray in here. A little bit lighter. Okay. So I'm going to make that shade of gray. And you have X to-dos today. And then we want an option of filter. So to filter, we can do a search bar, which is what I'm going to do. And generally, when you look at UIs, right, your search bar is going to be some sort of box. You want some sort of kind of light background color. So I'm going to assign that background color. I like rounded corners personally, but of course that is personal preference. And then I'm going to add some sort of stroke, just so you can clearly differentiate that, hey, this is going to be a place where you input your data. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. Then I'm going to drag this text here, and this is going to be kind of your placeholder text. So for this placeholder text, we're going to make it a little bit more gray. Right there. And we're just going to add this text search by tag. Some dots right there. Make this regular. That still looks a little bit too big to me. Drop this down to 14. And decrease the height of this. There we go, that's looking good. So we have a little hello. We have this prompt telling the users they have this many to-dos today. And then we have an option for them to search by tags. I'm going to decrease this to corner rounded. Let's go to 6. So now that we have this kind of top title section here, I'm going to group these together. I'll first probably name these. I'm going to call this search bar. This is going to be subtitle. And then I'm going to group this together and call this header. So grouping these components will help us when we go into Flutter, just because these groups will kind of impact how we make our widgets and how we're assigning our widgets names and groups. So once we have this kind of hello username right here, we want to, of course, have a way for the user to see their to-dos. So I'm going to make a card. And for those of you who don't know, cards are just kind of these boxes. We're going to make this the same kind of design as this guy up here. So we stroke this color. And we have, so it actually be better if I made this a component. I should just do Control K, does that. And then there's a rectangle right here. And if I go into Assets, I draw out this rectangle. And this is going to be our new to-do card. So for our to-do, you want someone to mark the to-do done. So we're going to add a little button right here. I'm going to press O to go into my ellipses tool. Create this little ellipses. Give that the color here. And then I'm going to make a little check mark, right? So I'm holding shift so that I draw right angles. Make stroke white. Radius 2.5. And then on the end, we want to have it rounded and caps round. Oh, this cap should be rounded too. Let's do that again. There we go. Now it's nice and rounded. And we will actually make that 3. let me adjust this guy right here. I'm gonna shorten the length of this. Cool. So now we have that. I'm gonna align them with the align tools up here. Group this together and call this our checkbox. So you click this, and that's what's going to be marking your to-do as complete. So now we have these components right here. I'm going to add a title. So I'm going to copy that text, take this up here, move it to the top, give it a kind of darker color, and also make this a little bit less bold. And then this is going to be your first to-do, right? So your to-do is like feed the cat. Cool. So that's all nice and dandy. But we said that you have to have tags, right? And of course we have a search by tag function here. So how are we going to implement that? Well, first I'm going to make this feed the cat thing a little bit bigger. And then for the tags, we're actually going to use a component called a chip. So a chip is a rounded rectangle. So if we draw this out here, we round this. I can probably go a bit higher than that. I mean, they're normally rounded completely like this. And then you assign this some sort of color, right? So we're going to go with a flat color space. We'll assign purple. And then inside of this, you're going to have your actual, your white text that says what the actual tag is. So I'm going to have this like hashtag cats. Right? That's a decent tag. So the size is down here. We're going to make this 12. And then this text goes inside of the chip. So these chips right here normally represent some sort of like tag like this. And then you would duplicate them as so and assign each, color, each tag a different color. So we change the fill on this one to something like this. And this is going to be hashtag home. Oops, I was not home. So that's a very basic card. And then of course you want some way to edit it. So I'm going to pull in a editing icon from another project. You can feel free to find your own online or make one. And that's going to be how you click the editing button. So now the user can view their to-dos and then click this button to edit them and click this button to mark them as done. What else do we need here? Well, we also need a way for the user to enter a new to-do. So down here, we're going to have a little half card. So that's the correct color. We're only going to round the top section. So if you go up here, you can change the corners individually. And I'm going to do that. Assign these top corners to 20. And then we're going to add a text input. So we're going to just take this and drag it over here. And in this input, right, we're going to have a to-do item, this placeholder text. Actually, it'd be even better if we turn this into a component. So it's a search bar, that's a text input. We're going to make this a component. Delete that. And then we're going to take our text input right here, drag it out. There you go. And this, why is that taken? Okay, just making sure this is okay. And then we're going to change the text inside of here to be add a to-do. So you can see already kind of how our Flutter application will be coming together. Right, we already have this background style right here that we're using. We already have this text input that we'll be for using on this application. We have our colors right here, and then we have these chips that will also be for using. So on this text input right here, we want to have a button, of course, for the user to say, hey, I want to submit this. I'm going to take this background color, this background card type thing, shorten it, size it down, and then I'm going to give this a color We're going to take off the stroke and give this the same fill color as the background. And then add a little text in it that just says enter. Or add, I guess. We'll shorten this. Go there and make this extra bold. And then I'm just going to align this by adding equal padding on each side. Run 2 across, shortening this here. And going 1 back. So that's pretty good. Now we have our home screen done. Let's group all these to make sure that we have them all nice and grouped. Call this, we're going to group this together. And then we'll call this a tag. And then we can delete this, and then we can use this tag component that we have right here. And change the color directly. Bam. So now we have some componentized items. So the next thing that we want to be able to do is actually edit the to-dos that we have. So this screen is going to be our edit screen. And really it's going to keep all this kind of background stuff, right? So we still want to have this background. We're just having a modal on top. So I'm going to leave this be for now, and we'll just design the modal right here. I'm going to take this card. Oops. Take this this card, this rectangle, right? Take this down here. I'm going to extend this out. So this is going to be the basis for our edit tab, right? I'm going to steal this text input. So I'm just going to drag on a new text input. And to edit it, we're going to have this right here. This is going to be your editing one. So this will be pre-filled out, right? So this is going to be your to-do from the last section. All right, so when you click edit, this was going to be something like we had feed the cats as the title, right? So it's going to be feed the cats. And then the second part we're going to want is a way to edit the tags, right? So we're going to have, let me just come over here and copy these 2 chips. Let me change this around. Okay, we do want that there still. I want to add the chips on top. I'm going to detach this instance from the component so we can edit it. Okay, yeah, see now we have this text input box here. I gotta really screw this all up. Detach that from the background. There we go. And now it's going to play all nice with everything. So let's say we wanted to add a new hashtag, right? So we're going to, have a tag right there. It's us typing it in. This tag is going to be pre-existing. This does not look aligned properly. This tag is going to be pre-existing, so it's going to sit right here along with this one. And inputs for chips, basically, as you type, you have some sort of separator between these, like a comma or space. And once the user types and then press space, it turns into a chip like this. And then that chip is assigned a color, and that's how you kind of get these. So in this case here, right, if you were a user and you were wanting to add a new tag, you start typing hashtag TAG space, and then they'd turn into a chip, and then you'd be able to enter in your next tag. So that's just a little bit of how that UX would work for the user. And then we want to add a few buttons. So we're going to copy this button. I don't actually like this button that much. We're going to take the add button. I think this is a much better button for our use right here. And I'm going to center this right here, extend this out. And this, we're going to increase the text size to 18. We're going to have update. So that's what actually saves your updates. Center this. or you can of course mark it as done. So once the user marks this as done, it'll update the state here, and it'll update it across the component. So that's the kind of our basic editing box. It's a little bit wide right now. What the hell is that coming from? Oh. Yeah, let's shorten that. Okay, let's shorten this down, maybe like to there. To move this. Let's expand this box out. There you go. There you go. That looks much better. Spacing's a little bit messed up right there. Want to fix that. There we go. Group this together. We're going to call this our edit modal. So on the edit screen, right, you click your edit button and this is going to pop up. So we're going to add a layer over all of this that's kind of a dark black. We're going to add transparency to it. 20%, 30%. Yeah, and then we're going to have this be darken. And this is just going to sit on top just as so. And we're going to increase the size of this as well. Yeah, so this is going to be a little small. I'll just press K and scale it up. You want this to span the application, and then we're going to center it. So there's our way to edit our to-dos, right? So you log in with Google, you can see all your listed to-dos here. You can type them in, you press add, pops up on the screen. Mark is done, that'll mark it as done. You press edit button, and this modal will pop up, and you'll be able to enter in a new title and the new tags. And when you're adding a to-do, we're going to have the same kind of tag input. So if you hashtag and then your tag name space, it'll add a chip, and otherwise you are just entering in your title. So that all looks good to me. This is a very basic UI, but I showed you guys kind of making some of these, assets right here and seeing all these. Let me actually rename this. When you're building larger applications, it's the same kind of process, right? You're creating all these different components. You want to stylize them, create more of these local components right here that you can reuse across your application. When you turn this design that you make in Figma into a Flutter application, it's going to be a lot easier to think about, the component or widget level of your programming. And you can break all these screens down into a bunch of reusable widgets. That's going to make your code a lot cleaner and simpler to write. So that's it for this video. I'll be seeing you guys in the next one where we're actually going to start programming this UI in Flutter. See you guys next time.